Hello everyone. I want to discuss what's going on with the rock art record on and around Skinwalker Ranch in northeastern Utah. To begin, let's start with this McKee Ranch petroglyph found near Skinwalker Ranch. Many have interpreted this petroglyph to have something to do with cosmology, seasonal tracking, a map of something hidden, or site locations and structures. After collecting data from around the world, I'm leaning towards a combination of that list. I wish I could show you a drawing from stone-circles.org.uk of what Stonehenge looked like when in use. If I did that, then this presentation would get pulled down because of copyright issues. So, consider that ancient Stonehenge in the United Kingdom looked very similar to the McKee Ranch petroglyph thousands of years ago when it was being used by the ancients. Understand there are multiple ancient structures below Stonehenge that until recently no one had any idea about. This tells us that the site was important enough to continuously be used by multiple cultures over extended periods of time. Again, check out stone-circles.org.uk for that photo of Stonehenge looking almost identical to the petroglyph. A Mesoamerican ancient structure in what is today Mexico. This photo is from an information plaque at the National Museum of Anthropology in Mexico City. So, again, I believe there are multiple reasons for an ancient structure being created in this form, aside from the exact meaning which only those that were there and lived it know. I can be certain that the need for their exact locations were one of the dominant features of all these builds. Think of the shape and importance it must hold for certain rites of passage and ritual. What if some of those are more than symbolic? What if they're placed in areas of known energies, those of which we as a civilization in the 21st century have forgotten about? Location of these sites continued to be used for thousands of years by different groups. It continues to this day. However, many of the sites were abandoned, forgotten about over time, and may very likely be buried below ground. Some originated underground, others were covered up by the elements and vast amounts of time passing. Circle Stone in the Superstition Mountains, Arizona. This is a similar type of feature found in the Superstition Mountains, sitting on top of a plateau at 6,010 feet. It is off the beaten path, yet there for a reason. When this was in use, it was placed there because of location being of the utmost importance, not for distance to an occupation site, but because of energy, located at that specific spot. Fieldwork at Circlestone has been impossible because of the status of the region. Circlestone lies within the Superstition Wilderness area. This region has been closed off to all archaeological excavations and explorations. The only type of fieldwork that can be undertaken at Circlestone is surface analysis and measurements. The structure sits on a quartzite outcrop that inhibits any real excavation. Anyone can visit the site. However, be prepared to backpack in 12.5 miles and out 12.5 miles. So what am I getting at? When do you get to see the Skinwalker Ranch petroglyph? So hold on, I'm getting there. So specific locations were chosen by ancient people as portal sites. Whether you believe that to be symbolic or other, meaning an actual doorway or gateway to another space-time or interdimensional bridge, is better left up to the individual. Whether you believe it is symbolic or can physically be created through some alteration in energy, I'm leaving up to you. The point is, the sites are real, they are all over the world, and they sure as hell were important to those living in the past. This is a portal from Mesoamerica. It's now located at the National Anthropology Museum in Mexico City. It originally sat on top of stone pillars and was considered a way to enter another realm. Where that is, I can only speculate since I was not there when it was being used. Now check this out. Same symbol as seen in Mesoamerica and elsewhere in the world. Look closely above it. The glyph could be interpreted as a doorway or a gateway directly above the worldwide ancient portal symbol. This is McKee Spring Petroglyph Site in Dinosaur National Monument. This is on the Uinta Basin near Skinwalker Ranch and all the high strangeness occurring there for thousands of years. Here's a close-up of the same petroglyph that is near Vernal, Utah. Now, I often consider the possibility that what was occurring in the past can continue to occur. We need to work at understanding what was apparently known throughout the world in the past. It's lost knowledge that should be examined with a greater urgency. Here we also have McKee Spring Petroglyph Site. Do we see a partial green river glyph? Is the line matching the river that flows due south of the glyph? When I teach or present on petroglyphs, I tell the students or audience that a single glyph could have different meanings to ancient cultures and people that existed throughout the world. The rock art is subjective. Anyone that tells you they know the meaning is guessing. It may be an educated guess based on other factors such as cultural sites near the glyphs and artifacts found at the site, but they do not know the exact meaning. Only the artist that created the glyph knows the meaning. That being said, if one examines the entire panel, you may be able to make a more educated guess about the meaning. If you have multiple glyphs together, more information is available to assist in forming an opinion. I also recommend looking around the area. Are there similarities between what is seen on the rock wall and what is in the environment around you? But if doing this, consider the fact that these glyphs were created hundreds, if not thousands of years ago. What's around you may have changed since then. Another consideration is comparing oral traditions of indigenous people in the area, past and present. Last, consider what is happening in the area and been documented. For me, this rock art is discussing a magnetic portal event that has been documented in the area within the last 40 years. I'll leave it at that for now. Ant People, McKee Spring Petroglyph Site. This matches the stories and descriptions of the ant people told by the Hopi and Zuni Pueblo, which are descendants of the ancestral Puebloans. Interestingly, they were known as the Anasazi, which is a Navajo word that people in the 19th century thought it meant old ones. Its true meaning was enemy ancestors. The literal translation of Anasazi is alien, scattered. Why ant people and other anthropomorphic figures that are highly unusual? Now is the time to make another good point. Notice what is missing from many of the petroglyphs in Utah. Normal day-to-day life is missing in the historical data. We do not see much of maize, which is corn, daily life at the campsite, or common day activities such as cooking and participating in musical activities or dance. What we have instead are strange and bizarre looking anthropomorphic and zoomorphic figures doing activities that are difficult to understand. Why? What was going on that required this be recorded for the future and not what we see elsewhere around the world? What was happening here that reached deep into the high strangeness factor? This does not look to be Fremont style, but it is McKee Spring Petroglyph Site. It almost appears to be a hybrid glyph between Fremont culture and another older culture known as Barrier Canyon style. We know little about who both groups were and label them both now as Desert Archaic Indians. Okay, this is the petroglyph on Skinwalker Ranch, highlighted for clarity. After looking for similarities between the petroglyph on Skinwalker Ranch and others on the Uinta Basin, I took my own advice and looked around the area. I found this section of the Green River that appears similar to the glyph. This section of the river is not too far away from the ranch in an eastern direction. Do we have a partial map? If so, what is it pointing those ancient people of yesterday toward? Others have looked at the glyph and stated it deals with the star constellation above. Both could be right or wrong explanations. Okay, not highlighted, actual depth and color. The picture was taken by Carl the Crusher. The bottom portion looks anthropomorphic with two rectangles attached at each end. Two groups of people of large stature were on the Uinta Basin in the past. One was the Epsilon tunic wearing group. The other were the two rectangles on the chest plate or tunic giants. Those rectangles look like what I saw on Skinwalker Ranch's anthropomorphic petroglyph. Was there a war taking place between two groups of men large in stature? Many anthropomorphic figures in the area appear to be carrying heads in their hands. Does this show headhunting activity? Epsilon giant? That's my personal belief and interpretation. This is McKee Spring Petroglyph Site. The rectangle group giants. These would have been how their tunics were designed. I hope you look closely at the historical records available on the Uinta Basin in Utah and throughout the rest of the world. There was so much in common between groups that should have never had contact between each other. So why was so much similar, if not identical? What was the reason for strange data being captured by the artists of the rock records? I believe we will all reach our own interpretations of what we see. I can only bring the information to you for review. Thanks again for taking time out to view this presentation. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel, as I've finally decided to put most of my work out to the public for you to evaluate and then reach your own conclusion. Take care.